Hi everyone, and welcome to week 7 of Project ATC10K and the review of the Topo Specter 2. And if you haven't been following along with Project ATC10K and just want to skip to the shoe review portion of the video, then you're going to want to skip to about 5 minutes through. Look for the timestamps in the description. Thanks for clicking on the video and enjoy. Good morning and happy Monday morning. It is week 7 of Project ATC10K. I've just finished my first run of the week, which was 50 minutes easy with some long strides. Long strides rather than just 80 to 100 meter strides where you're getting up to a relaxed 1 mile or 1500 race pace. Long strides are 200 meters and you're really only getting to that relaxed race pace, relaxed mile pace for the last 70 or 75 meters of that. So I spend about 125 meters very gradually accelerating. That allows me to get that neuromuscular activation without really jarring the system all that much. Heart rate was very good, nice and low today. Heart rate shouldn't really go high when you're doing strides because you have long recoveries. It's not a heart rate workout, it's neuromuscular. I did my run in the Hoka Mach 6 today, and I absolutely love this shoe as a general training shoe, especially if you want to throw some pace in there. So I'll see you guys tomorrow where we'll have some 800s for a workout. Tuesday morning, track workout day. I'm headed over to the track for a 6x800, pretty simple workout, but never easy. And today's shoe, I'll be wearing one of the best shoes to come out lately for interval work, and that's the Brooks Hyperion 2. So I just finished the 6x800s, and it was a great workout, much better than I felt last week. My goal was 5K pace. My 5K pace is about 5:43 per mile, so I figured 5:40 pace on the track, 85-second laps. That actually comes out to about 5:42 for an imperial mile if you really want to split hairs. But yeah, that would be a 250 800. My first 800 was in 250, then I did a 249, then I did 3 248s, and then my last one, fast one, was a 241. And I just felt great feathering the throttle, and especially on that last lap of that last rep, just kind of ratcheting up every 100 or every 200 or so, almost like I did with the long strides yesterday, to really finish strong and feel like I could keep accelerating after that. I've read Greg McMillan say that you should always finish a rep workout feeling like you had 1 or 2 left in the tank, and I definitely felt that way. Yeah, the Hyperion 2, I stick by the philosophy that for track reps, wearing an unplated racer flat-like shoe is great to keep you strong and keep you efficient, so you're not just relying on, the plate and the gushy foam. I feel like as far as trainers go, this is as close to a racer flat as you can get, and that really keeps you clean, so you can't just rely on the components of the shoe to fix your mistakes. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, and the rest of the week. Might have a new shoe to try out tomorrow. Good morning. It is a beautiful Wednesday, and it was 59 degrees Fahrenheit when we started our run this morning, with a nice low dew point too. So I know it's not going to last forever. This is a false fall, but everyone and their brother was out running today just because it was beautiful. It was a great day for an easy post-workout run, and I was in the 361 degrees Elios, which is just a heavenly shoe to run in on an easy day or any kind of run anyway. So I'll see you tomorrow. Topo Specter 2. Okay, as I'm unboxing the Topo Specter 2 here, I'm going to do some specs and features. And we'll look at what's on the inside of the box here. Topo is known for the roomy toe box. It is an anatomical toe box. Secure midfoot and feel, that would be in line with what I've experienced in other Topo shoes, and a low heel to toe drop. Topo started off making zero drop shoes like Ultra, and a couple of the models are still zero drop, but all of them are low heel to toe drop. In this case, it's a 7mm heel to toe drop, and we'll get into the specs with that. Okay, so here we go. We'll get the stuffing out of here real quick. Here we go. Okay, so it's a very light shoe for what it is, and it is a performance trainer, but it's gonna be a little bit more of an oomphy performance trainer than the Topo Cyclone 2. It is listed on Topo's website to be 8.1 ounces for a sample size, and this is a men's 9.5, which is pretty close to a sample size. I don't have my scale handy right now, but I will weigh these when I get home to my scale, and I'll put the weight that I got in grams and ounces right here. Left shoe, 242 grams, 8.5 ounces. Right shoe, 240 grams, 8.5 ounces. Okay, so it feels light. The upper feels very similar to that of the Cyclone 2, except a little bit more built up. Got a similarly padded heel collar and lightly padded tongue, so it's very much like the Cyclone 2, just kicked up a notch. Can't wait to put these on my feet. The midsole is 100% Pebax, and that is brand name Pebax. But there's more of it than in the Cyclone 2. There are 37mm in the heel, 32mm in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. We've got the anatomical toe box, the lacing system, which uses flat laces. I have a non-gusseted tongue, as far as I can tell, but like many Topo shoes, we have this little loop technology on the tongue, which keeps the laces in place. It keeps the tongue from migrating as well. I'm just double checking there are no gussets there. I've never had trouble with the tongue in any of the Topo shoes I've tried. And we have this big, almost an outrigger of a midsole heel flare on the back end there. And I'm sure that helps with a little bit of the stability and allows people with various foot strikes to take full advantage of this nice bouncy midsole. Outsole, we have strategic patches of rubber, and it looks very similar to the kind of rubber used on the Cyclone 2, so not very luggy, but grippy enough and just enough to kind of protect that soft beaded Pebax sole. So yeah, let's get these on my feet and see how the fit is. Before I put these on my feet, there is a removable sock liner, and it does feel like there is some padding in this sock liner. It is not just the cheapest kind. I mean, there's not too much for it. It's still just regular foam, but it is nicely contoured. And I will say that Topo does have some good aftermarket insoles that they can sell if you want a little bit more cushion to add to your midsole, or if you want just a more hydrophobic sock liner. Like I use one of those in the MTN Racer 3. And then we've got a perforated Strobel board there that actually feels pretty soft to the touch, but it's just that above the layer of Pebax there. Okay, you guys will have to excuse my khaki pants here. I'm still at work as I'm trying these on, but the step and feel of these is awesome. The foot just sinks right in. This modest cushioning here is still very creamy, still very smooth, and the foot just goes right in. It's like these are made for my feet. Standing up, putting weight in it, I've got a little bit under a thumb width worth of room. The way Topo shoes fit, if I had a full thumb width, it would almost be too big. Just with the wider toe box, you can afford a little bit less room in front of the toes because you get that nice toe splay. It's certainly true to size. This is a men's 9.5. That's my true to size. And it just feels fantastic. They're just regular knot
I haven't had to do a lock lace or anything, and it is totally secured, locked down, and comfortable, especially for a performance trainer. I'm gonna run in these tomorrow morning and see if I can get a few paces in.
It's Thursday. It's another beautiful day with a nice low dew point. I think the temperature's like 57 degrees outside, which is wonderful for August. And yeah, I just did the first run in the Topo Specter 2. And it was a slightly longer base day run, 15K, 9.3 miles. But on the back end, did 20 minutes of progression run with 10 minutes at marathon pace. Ended up being about 6:28 per mile. 6 minutes of half marathon pace, which came out to about 6:13 per mile. And then the last 4 minutes at 10K goal pace, which is a little faster. It came out to like 5:53 average, which is really about 3.5 minutes of 5:55, and then a hard close for the last half minute. But yeah, the Spectre 2 felt pretty good rolling through all those paces. Even the first half of the run, when I was running easy effort, ended up being a little bit faster than easy, but that might have to do with the weather. Gonna get a couple more runs in it before I do a full review, including a shoe off.
Okay, it's shoe off time, and the shoe in the hot seat is the Topo Athletic Spectre 2. The shoes with which I will be comparing in order are the Topo Athletic Cyclone 2, the Nike StreakFly, the Saucony Kinvara 14, the New Balance Revel V4, the Hoka Mach 6, and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. All of these shoes have a lot in common. They are performance trainers to some extent. Many of them have full Pebax midsoles like the Spectre 2. Most of them do not have a plate or any stiffening features, with the exception being the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, and I'll get to why that one's included in due time. All right, let's get started.
Our location for today's shoe off is the North Carolina Research Campus in Kannapolis, a couple blocks from where I work, with these lovely academic buildings set as a backdrop in this nice brick and concrete half-mile loop that I'm going to use to do for each comparison. All right, so the Topo Cyclone 2 and the Topo Specter 2. Superficially, they look very much like one another until you set them right next to each other. But the differences become a lot more apparent once you have one on each foot, because the Topo Specter 2, although it has the same heel to toe drop, has 7 millimeters more cushion in it. You can definitely feel that. They both have the same midsole material, but compared to one another, the Cyclone 2 feels almost like an old school racing flat, except for the wide toe box. And then the Spectre 2 feels like it has a lot more bounce to it. When I did my first run it felt bouncy. It didn't feel the bounciest, but it feels really bouncy compared to a low slung lightweight shoe like the Cyclone 2. The Cyclone 2 is one of the most flexible shoes I have. The Spectre 2 is not as flexible. I mean, it's flexible. It doesn't have a plate. It just, with the thicker midsole, it definitely feels more structured. Both have the same very nice conforming step in and comfortable fit though. Okay, the Nike StreakFly and the Topo Cyclone 2. These shoes feel a lot more similar than I expected them to. The StreakFly is lighter. It's not quite as bouncy, even though I consider it a pretty bouncy shoe for what it is. It's less stable though. And the upper certainly doesn't have as good a lockdown for me. So the Cyclone 2 is about an ounce, 20 to 25 grams heavier than the StreakFly, but I think you get more stability out of that, and you still get a good bit of bounce. So while the StreakFly I would use as kind of a workout shoe, the Topo I could use as a workout shoe, but also do some longer efforts in more comfortably. Kinvara 14 versus the Topo Cyclone 2. If you
have watched many of my comparisons, then you've heard me extol on the virtues of the Kinvara 14's simplicity. And I still believe that it is a formula that works well in a lightweight and affordable package. In fact, at some online retailers, they have new Kinvara 14s for $60 because the 15 is out now, so you could get the new one for like half the price. Anyway, I think for any run up to about 1 hour, I could take either one of these shoes and feel equally happy. You would pay a premium for the Specter 2. What are you going to get for that premium? You're going to get more bounce. You're going to get what I think is a more elegant and comfortable upper, and you're going to get a shoe that is going to feel comfortable past that 60 minutes that you could probably take for up to a 2-hour run or longer. And you get the bounciness of that Pebax midsole. The anatomical toe box is worth mentioning too, and that's something that I like, but not everyone else does. Okay, on foot I have the new Balance Revel V4 and the Topo Specter 2, of course. And the Revel V4 so far today has been the only shoe that feels like it's way more spacious in the upper than the Specter 2. And that's not because it has a terribly wide forefoot or anything. I think just the upper is very much airier and looser. It's not a very snug upper, and I think anyone who's running the Revel V4 would agree. So that's why I use the Revel V4 as more of a daily trainer and don't reach for it as often when I want to run fast. The Revel V4 I think has a very appealing midsole, but the Specter 2 is definitely going to have more pop and more bounce due to that 100% Pebax rather than the 80/20 EVA Peba blend that's in the fuel cell of the Revel V4. The Revel V4 feels lighter and it's cheaper, at least it is right now. Probably will remain cheaper for a while. But like I said with the Kinvara, the Specter 2 feels like it could handle more on foot for a single session. But they're both very comfortable and something I wouldn't mind reaching for on pretty much any given training day. Okay, we've got the Hoka Mach 6 and the Topo Specter 2. And outwardly, you look at these two shoes and think they're very different, but I think they have a lot more in common than they have differences. Similar stack heights, similar drops, similar weights. There might be 10 to 15 grams difference between the two shoes. Similar run experiences. Now, I know you're gonna say, but Chaz, the Specter 2 is a 100% Pebax midsole, and the Mach 6 is a supercritical EVA. And all the EVA haters out there are gonna turn their nose up at it because it's not Peba. But I tell you what, this supercritical midsole in the Mach 6, as I've mentioned in other videos, it's legit, and it provides a very lively run experience. Almost a similar liveliness to the Specter 2. The big difference in these shoes is going to be the shape of the toe box. I won't say the fit in general, because they both have a very secure midfoot. And I would say they're equally comfortable if you're not picky about how your toes fit into the toe box. The Mach 6 has a very tapered, arrow-like, spear-like toe fit, which some people would call more performance-oriented, and the Topo has that anatomical toe-splaying toe box, which can still be performance-oriented, depending on how you like to activate your metatarsals and phalanges. So, these two are very comparable, and I would say very high quality because of it. The Specter 2 is going to be $25 more expensive. So it depends on how those differences are differences that you might want to pay a little premium for. All right, last comparison of the day. I have the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 and the Topo Specter 2 here. Both 100% beaded Peba midsoles. Similar in price. In the United States, the Endorphin Speed 4 is $170. The Topo Specter 2 is $165. So almost negligible. I don't know how it is overseas, or even Topo's availability overseas. But run experience. Similar weights. The Topo might be a few grams more expensive. I expected it to be lighter, actually. It does not have a plate like the Speed 4 does. And while it doesn't feel as flexible as something like the Cyclone 2, it does feel more flexible than the Speed 4. And you feel more of the rocker sensation of the Topo, even though the Speed 4 has the speed roll technology. So these are pretty similar in use case scenario. They're both performance oriented that can handle a lot of daily training. How I would describe them differently is the Speed 4 I personally would use for long runs, especially if there's some pace involved, but I could also use it for daily training. Whereas the Specter 2 I could use for daily training, even if there's some pace thrown in, but also could use it for a long run. They would both be really decent options for a racing shoe if you did not want to pay $200, $230, $250, $275 for a carbon plated super shoe. All right, friends, that's a wrap on this shoe off. I'm gonna get a couple more runs in the Specter 2, and then I'm gonna put a shoe talk together for you.
Hello there, and it's shoe talk time, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the rest of the runs I did throughout the week. I did about 13 miles of mixed surface long running on Friday, and then I did about 8 miles with Eric on Sunday, so I will put my weekly mileage right here. All right, so we're going to talk mainly about the Topo Specter 2. I talked about the Mach 6 and the Hyperion 2 and the Ilios earlier in the video, but since this is mainly a shoe review of this shoe, let's get into it. I don't want the video to get too long. The Specter 2, as I talked about, is a 100% Pebax midsole performance trainer without a plate. Still fairly flexible, but I think the thickness of this midsole adds some good structure to it. Superficially, it might look like this shoe, the Cyclone 2, but yeah, you put them together on screen and you can tell this one's a lot more substantial. Great for daily training, but also going to be able to pick it up. It can do a lot more things than the Cyclone 2 can do. Advantage the Cyclone 2 has is weight. This is a sub 7 ounce shoe. It's under 200 grams in my men's size 2.5, and very flexible. You could build a rotation around these two shoes where most of your running would be in the Specter 2, and then your fast intervals or maybe even 5K races, if you don't like plates, would be in the Cyclone 2. And then maybe if you wanted a 3-shoe rotation, you could throw in the MTN Racer for a trail shoe, or the Topo Atmos or something. I don't have that, but I've tried it on and it's really nice. Like I was saying during the shoe off, the main competitors of this shoe, I don't know if you would call them competitors, but ones to which I would compare the shoe are these two shoes, the Hoka Mach 6 and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, and for different reasons. The Endorphin Speed 4 mainly because that 100% Peba midsole, that bouncy response, that's going to be good for long runs. This one I might take for long runs or some longer workouts just because that winged plastic plate in there does offer a little bit more stability. But again, this is a very stable shoe. And even though Saucony has that speed roll technology, this one seems to actually roll off the forefoot a little bit more easily for me personally. Still gonna have both of these high up on my list for shoes to reach for. But then there is the Mach 6, which while it's not as simple and to the point as the Kinvara 14, it just does a lot really well. It's even though it's a bit of a snug fit, you are locked down the whole time, and this midsole, this ProFly midsole, supercritical EVA, is very lively. So I think this, if you have the Mach 6 and you're not interested in an anatomical toe box or a Pebax midsole, then stick with this. All right, I went ahead and moved outside for my final thought here because it's a nice day and people were waking up. I didn't want to bother anyone. In summation, I am really happy with the Topo Specter 2. I think it is well priced for a full Pebax midsole. I like the way the anatomical toe box fits my foot. I think it would be a great training tool if you like lower drop performance trainers. Again, 5mm drop, it says right there, right on the back. Yeah, I look forward to getting more miles in it. Thanks guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications, and share the video if you would. Oh, and one last thing, can't forget, don't forget to tune in next week for the final video of the Project ATC10K series, and that will actually be the race video because the race is a week from today. So come join me at Around the Crown and drop a comment in this video if you plan to be there. Maybe we can meet up for a warm-up run or something. I'll see you guys on the next run.